evening. I'm Jackie Deeb and I'm the co-chair of the Calgary Fetal Alcohol Network. I'd like to welcome and thank you for attending this evening's session with Liz Lorick and Darla Parsons. Before I introduce Liz and Darla, there are a few housekeeping tips. We're using a town hall format in which you can submit questions for the speakers by emailing cysd@gov.ab.ca or by texting 780-405-3376, and Liz and Darla will respond to your questions. All sites have been muted at the bridge. Please be sure that your mics are also muted. If you experience any technical issues, please let your local site contact know and they will follow up accordingly. We are pleased to let everyone know that today's session has over 40 sites with over 90 people registered. Education and training is critical to the 10-year FASD strategic plan that the Government of Alberta has supported. Education and training through the use of video conferencing technology has brought the province of Alberta together along with many partners within the Canada Northwest FASD Partnership and other jurisdictions such as PEI and Ontario. We are pleased with the ongoing interest and attendance in this initiative. We are in the process of planning the fall and winter schedule for 2009-2010. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Liz and Darla. Liz conducts pre-medical screening assessments using the OBD, which is Organic Brain Dysfunction, triage instrument, and provides subsequent explanation of the medical diagnosis to families, educators and system staff caring for children, adolescents or adults living with FASD. To date, Liz has personally interviewed approximately 750 women. Liz also provides national training seminars and designs individualised approaches pertinent to addictions treatment, residential, academic, vocational and judicial settings. Darla lives in Calgary with her 2 children and is currently employed by McMahon Services as a mentor. She enjoys the support of the Pcap program and has done some public speaking regarding living with a diagnosis of FASD. Please join me in welcoming Liz and Darla.
Hi, Darla. Thank you so much for coming this evening to share your experience with us. I wanted to get started by asking you, Darla, where were you born?
I was born in the General Hospital in Calgary.
And were there any problems with your birth or any health conditions you had that you know of?
I was born 3 months premature, and I don't really know too much about how I was when I was a baby because my memories.
Okay. What are your first memories at what age?
My first memories was when I was 4, and I was living at my Nana's house, and I was 4 years old, and that's when I first learned to walk.
Okay. What other memories do you have at that time?
I didn't actually start talking until I was about 5. I was really quiet, so I did a lot of outbursts, and I had a lot of anger issues. So I didn't want to eat very much, and so I didn't talk very well. So my Nana basically just did what I kind of controlled her to do. So I didn't start school till very late, and I started drinking coffee at a very young age because I'd rather have that.
And so how old were you when you started making and drinking coffee?
I was 5 when I pulled a chair up to the counter and made my first pot of coffee.
And was that for your Nana?
No, it was for myself because that's what I wanted. I wanted her to show me what she was doing and how to make it so that I could have it myself. Then I wouldn't have to eat so much.
And did you live with your Nana throughout your life, or did you live in different places?
I got taken from my Nana around a little shortly after that because I was supposed to start school, but I didn't want to go to school, and the teacher started calling home because I was being really disruptive and bossy and kind of picking on the other kids, and would leave when I wanted to. So she got a lot of phone calls and she couldn't handle it, so I actually got into a car one day not knowing that I'm not supposed to get into cars because I was never taught. And that's one of the very last times I saw her.
Mm-hmm. So you were taken away from your Nana,
Mm-hmm.
and where did you go from there?
I bounced from house to house, and I wasn't in school. I lived with random people.
Were they relatives or friends of the family?
It was my biological mother's boyfriend's friends.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And as I understand, Darla, so you don't know your history of your biological mom or dad other than your Nana was your dad's mother, is that right?
mm-hmm.
Right. So these were friends of the family?
That's right.
Okay. And then I understand you eventually ended up in foster care.
I did. This was about, I was 6 years old, and I finally ended up with a social worker and in a foster home and in this woman's house, and she seemed to be God's gift to man. And there was about 10 of us in the foster home at the time, and I seemed to be the last child there. And so she decided to take upon herself when I was 7 to adopt me. Mm-hmm. And
so at what point, Darla, did you feel like you started to have some problems?
well, I didn't deal with change very well. I didn't speak very much. I didn't show very many emotions. And I mainly attached myself to teachers at school. So I asked my teachers for help. Like if I was hungry, I asked them if they had food rather than asking for food at home because I didn't know who this woman was or what was going on. No one explained to me why I wasn't with my Nana and how come I was with this woman that took me to court and adopted me. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I was a very angry child who swore a lot, and I was just couldn't sit down in school. I would steal a lot of the kids' food. I would steal money from the teachers. I would lie about doing it. School was not a place for me. I did not feel comfortable there at all. I felt really misunderstood. I didn't have anyone to go to or nothing to do when it came to being a child. I was very lost.
So I understand, Darla, now that you're an adult, that you see things differently as far as your upbringing. So as an adult now, as a parent, do you think there would have been concerns for you as a child growing up in the environments that you did?
What do you mean?
Well, as far as any abuse, emotional abuse, anything like that from the families that you lived with?
If there was?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was 4 years old when I had my first sexual experience, and that was with my biological mother's boyfriend. And then when I was got taken from my Nana's house, again, there was a teenage girl there, and that was my second sexual experience. And then when I got into the foster home, then a lot of the beatings started and emotional abuse, like I wasn't allowed to feel anything or do anything because it was wrong to do that. And then foster mother had a boyfriend, and he helped himself a lot, and that didn't stop until I was like a young woman, so around 11. So
that must have been very difficult, eh, Darla?
I didn't really know that, like today now as an adult, I know it's wrong, but as a child I thought that was my place in the world. That's who I was supposed to be. And not really having a sense of belonging in a way, I felt like I belonged in that way. So, and I wasn't, like I was really malnourished. Like I had to eat icing sugar, because there was a home full of 10 kids, and it's really hard to get something to eat. So I was really unbalanced. So I feel, when I started becoming an adult, I knew the difference between right and wrong, and it just took a long time for me to realize that. So I made sure I had a foundation in place to make sure that I could succeed in today's life.
So Darla, do you remember at what age you took your first drink of alcohol?
I was 5 years old when I first drank.
And how did that happen?
My Nana would have hockey parties, and I'd wake up every morning and there would still be the mess all over everywhere. And I would drink everything that was left, and then I would go outside and play. I wandered the streets. At age 5, I went all the way up from Bridgeland, where the old General Hospital used to be, all the way up to Peter's Drive-In, because I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to. I was the fearless one. I just wasn't afraid. I had no sense of fear at all, and I drank. There was people in the neighborhood that drank, and I would show up with like the alcohol breath, and they wouldn't care, right? So. And even in elementary school, it's amazing when you go over to people's houses how many parents drink. And I had the opportunity to drink, so I was considered to be just a sick child, right? When in logic, I was always drinking, and it still went through to junior high. Right. So I was drunk. I was drunk most of my elementary years and junior high years.
And do you think, Darla, that the alcohol was a way to forget the past abuse that you incurred as a little girl?
I drank because I wanted to be drunk, and I do believe today that was probably the best friend I ever had at that time.
How did it make you feel?
I felt amazing. I felt like an outgoing, happy, I could easily smile. I could put smiles on other people's faces, and I didn't have to really go to school because I would always suck up to the teachers, and I knew how to get the teachers around it so that if I did what I was supposed to do that had nothing to do with work, I would get the passing grades. Right. So I could still leave school and do what I wanted to do and still get that 50% average, because that's all you needed to pass, right? Was 50%. So, right.
So now we're at, say, junior high years. Where were you living at that point?
Grade 7 was the first time I ran away from my foster home. It was just too much for me. And the police service brought me back because I was only 11, and I guess it's the law to not be able to run away from home. Yep. And so I figured that wasn't going to help, and so I decided to find boys. And I found a man from when I met at the leisure center, because I used to get to go swimming all the time. And so I was 11, and he must have been in his 30s, I'm thinking today, because it was one of my best friend's brothers. And yeah, but that didn't work out too well.
Did you, was there somebody with you when you went to the leisure centers, or were you just there by yourself to go swimming?
No, there was one of my foster mom's boyfriend had a daughter, and she was Down syndrome. So I could take her swimming and say she was my aide, which made the prices a little bit cheaper, so then I could have my alcohol money, right? And so I was there every weekend, gone swimming with her, and it was a great place to get away and just
meet people.
Not
sure. Always good people.
Not always good people. Yeah.
So then from there, by now you're in grade 8, 9, and what was happening then?
Well, I met a man when I was in grade 7, and he had just turned 18, and I stayed with him from grade 7, 8, and 9, and by the time grade 9 came, I had to quit drinking because I'd become pregnant, and I was going to a Catholic school, so at that time you would get kicked out of school and be sent away because it wasn't right to be pregnant at that age.
And Darla, did you know you were pregnant right away at that time?
No, I had no idea that there was even chances of having children at that time.
So you were pretty far along in your pregnancy before you discovered it, is that right?
That's right, yeah. I think it wasn't until I started showing, it was about, I was 9 months into my pregnancy, and I started to show, and the school told me I had to go to the doctor and kind of check things out. But I got my girlfriend to take a pregnancy test for me so that I could tell him that I wasn't pregnant, even though I was. So I hid it all through grade 9. I did.
Was that so that you could stay in school?
Totally. totally. Yeah, that was my scapegoat. That was my way to socialize with people my age and people with my kind of issues, because all the people that I was with either had to deal with abortions or being beat by their boyfriend or being beat by their parents. Like, we all shared some type of emotion that was attached. And yeah, so.
How were you doing in school at that point?
I didn't really have a very good attendance. I didn't know that there was high school after grade 9. I thought that was high school, grade 7, 8, and 9. And like I said, I got like between 50 to 70%, but the 70% was like phys ed, English. I had the same English teacher from grade 6, 7, 8, and 9, so I developed that healthy relationship with him. And
so you did well in English?
I did, yeah, until I had to go to grade 10, and it was different.
So what happened by grade 10?
By grade 10, I just turned 18. Yeah, well, I didn't really go to high school, so I guess I was 18 in grade 11, because that would be about right. But I didn't really go to school at all. Like, I got all the undergraduate grades, like 13, 24, 33, just so that I could get the credits. And so I got like 60 credits, but again, I didn't really go to school.
So was school always a struggle since you remember, right from grade 1? Did
Absolutely.
you repeat any grades?
I failed grade 3, and I bounced around so much that I didn't know what grade I was in.
Okay.
And yeah, school wasn't for me.
And what age, Darla, do you recall having your medical diagnosis being done?
I was in about grade 3, 4 split. I was about 8 years old.
Right. And what was your understanding of those medical appointments and what was happening?
It was very intense. It was very overwhelming. I had no idea. I was seeing all these people, and they were like examined from head to toe, and it was a lot. And I wasn't really told how come. And because of the person that I had at home caring for me, she just told me it was like a mental illness. So that's what I came to believe that I had, was a mental illness.
Okay. Yeah. When did you start understanding what FASD was about?
I didn't come to believe what FASD was. I kind of put it under the carpet and denied it and thought it wasn't true and it wasn't real and that it didn't exist, and I was just a dumb person, right? So who deserved to be on the streets, right?
Right. So with leaving school, you left school at about grade 11? And what happened after that? Where were you?
Well, I had lost my son, and I lost my place to live because I was on SIL, and I had no idea.
and at what age did you go on the supported independent living program?
I was 16.
Do you think that was too young to be on your own?
Definitely. I had no basic skills. I had no sense of nothing at all. All I know is I got a handful of money, and I was free from the home I was living in, and yeah, everything went flying everywhere. I wish I would have had the supports in place and was understood of FASD. And I had the ability to have some type of mentor when I was 15, 16, so that I could pay the rent, buy groceries, clean a house, go to school, be an empowered person that I was meant to be. But instead, I was handed a whole bunch of money, and I thought, wow. Yeah.
So you didn't have the structure or support
Nothing.
or routine or anything like that?
I had no idea. I was the most naive person, but I was queen of queens. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So what were your relationships like at that point? Who were you seeing somebody? Was that a good thing, bad thing?
No. See, my son's dad was quite older than me, and I didn't understand that there had to be a certain age you had to be with somebody to be in love with them. So he had to leave because the people I was living with had told him that he had to leave because they would charge him with something, and I didn't understand that. So, but no, everybody was my friend because everybody knew I had money, and everybody knew I didn't give a care about anything in the world.
So did you use any of that money for drugs, drinking, anything like that?
Oh my golly. I used it to sell drugs at school. I used it to drink alcohol and get other people drunk, so they would owe me money and would have to sell me drugs at school. Like, it was a vicious cycle, and I actually forgot that I had a kid at home.
And that was your first child?
And that was my first child, yeah.
Right. And then from there, you must have left the SIL program. Where did you go from SIL?
I went and couch surfed for about a year.
And that must have been at about 18, is that right?
Yeah, I was living, like everybody that was in my house, I ended up at their house for a certain amount of time before they got sick of me, because I was a very angry person.
Right.
I was very frustrated with everything. I didn't understand a lot of things. So.
Do you think you ever suffered from depression, Darla?
Well, I know in grade 6 I attempted suicide and didn't really tell anyone about it. And I wish in school somehow I would have had somebody to talk to without being so afraid. But I wasn't sure what depression was, probably not until today. You know, like in this lifetime that I live now. So.
And have you had other experience with suicidal thoughts and that type of thing throughout your life?
Oh, definitely. Like, I lived on the streets close to 10 years, and I think slowly that's what I was trying to do because I didn't care at all. And so it was actually with my daughter, Chelsea, that...
and she's how old now?
She's 3.5 now. And I was 7 months pregnant with her, and I attempted suicide.
And what happened there, Darla? What was going on for you at that point in your life that things were that bad?
I knew I had Fasd, and I was really afraid that I would have made the same mistakes. And I didn't want to give birth to a child to leave me. I love her so much, right? And the man that I was with was very abusive. Like, he was... Like, I ended up in a lot of counseling, and, like, I'm not there now. And ended up in a women's shelter because of this, because of the fear that it sensed inside me. And I was trying to quit drinking, and I tried to quit drinking on my own, and I was still using drugs, and I just didn't know how to stop. So I just thought death would have made it so much easier for the both of us.
So what happened? What did you do?
I took like 2 bottles of, what do you call it, Percocets, and I drank like 15 beers, and I was living in a basement suite in Burnaby, and I slit my wrist open.
And quite badly, did you know?
I passed out, and I woke up the next day, and I was like, wow, I woke up the next day. So in a way, I had an awakening that this child was meant to be mine, and I was meant to be this child's mother, so I had to do something.
So what did you do? You went to the hospital and got some treatment?
I wrapped it up in a tensor bandage, and I went to St. Paul's Hospital on the SkyTrain, and I made up some lie about what happened. And
you were how old at this point?
I was 23 when this happened. Yeah, and because I had Chelsea when I was 24, so.
So the turning point was Chelsea.
It was. Yeah, not succeeding in suicide, I discovered that there's got to be a greater being than myself wanting me to be this child's mother. So I knew there had to be a way out.
So where did you do? Were you in Calgary at that time or elsewhere?
I was in Vancouver.
Right.
I hitchhiked from Vancouver to Calgary, and it took me about a week. And I ended up in the mustard seed, and I asked them, I said, I'm having a child, and I want to keep this child, because in that time, people would have babies, and then they would get their babies taken away, and then they would end up back at the mustard seed. And I did not want that for myself because of what I went through with her, so I wanted to keep my child. So I went in the Step Up program, and they helped me understand that there's goals and dreams in life, and there's a way out. So they sent me to treatment.
Where did you go to treatment, Darla?
I went to Sunrise Native Addiction Services.
And how did you do there?
I did marvelous there. I stayed in their 6-week in-treatment program, and I went there for their 4-week after outpatient program. So, and actually one of the counselors there, I am so grateful to her this day that I call her my sister, because she really encouraged me and shared with me and gave me hope that my daughter could be mine, because I was still pregnant at this time. Mm-hmm. So she let me stay with her family, and her family to this day is my extended family. And my daughters love them to pieces. So she took me in because I couldn't go into one of those Oxford houses. I couldn't go back to the shelter. Like, I just didn't, I had nowhere to go. So I actually asked for help for the first time after asking to go to treatment. And yeah, her mom gave me a place to live until I got into the Brenda Stratford Center. And
what did you do there?
I needed help. I didn't know how to cook or clean or take a bath or even bath a child or nothing. So I had about a month before my daughter was born so that I could take care of myself. Right. So I got into Aspen, and that program utterly taught me everything that I needed to do to transition out of the street mentality.
Right. And from there, did you go to the Pcap program?
Oh yeah, Pcap.
Pcap.
Yeah, I found Parent-Child Assistance Program while I was in Sunrise. I took a step out of my zone, my bubble of chances for help, because they said if you had drank with your child, we have a way for you to help you, support you, and that's what I needed, because I never wanted to drink again. I was done drinking, and I was ready to be done drinking, because I did not want my daughter to even have a sense of that when she was born.
Right.
So Pcap, yeah, Pcap's awesome.
Can you explain to people that don't know, Darla, what the Pcap program did for you in terms of, or the mentorship program, or what did you find was the biggest benefit of that program?
They are an empowerment program in my head. They gave me the will to want to raise my daughter, whether she was FSD or not. They gave me a chance when I felt that no one would ever want me to have a drug and alcohol addicted child, even though I was like 2 to 3 months clean when she was born. And they were with me for 3 years, and I was such a little brat, I wanted an extension, so I got like 3.5 some odd more years, because I was like, I don't want you to leave. Yeah.
And you've done very well there.
Yeah. And they've actually, no matter what I was going through in reality, emotions, or, you know, the past coming up and hitting me, or like if my child was giving me any problems, and she wasn't, like Chelsea's amazing, they were there for me, regardless whether it was the weekend or, like, there's no time, right? If I needed help, if I had a question, if I didn't know how to do something, they went out of their way to make sure I knew how to do it, because I was always afraid that I would do the wrong thing to lose my daughter, right? And I didn't want to do that, and they did that. Like, it's not just paperwork, it's actually building a healthy relationship with somebody and having that trust in somebody that they're going to help you maintain your relationship with your child so that your child never has to be where I was. So.
And you did that, right, Darla? You did that. And then you had another baby. You had Samantha.
Because my memory fails me so much, I was irresponsible with the birth control pill.
You're having trouble remembering when to take it, Darla?
Yeah, so it was a good stampede week, and yeah, I ended up pregnant. And yeah, it was funny because I actually had a night out with the girls, and it was actually my girlfriend. She was scared she was pregnant, so I said I would take a pregnancy test with her to kind of be like, it's okay, you're not doing this alone. And the pregnancy test came back that I was pregnant too, so I was like, wow, okay, so we're both pregnant. And because I was still actually taking the birth control pill, right? Because I was just like, you know, I'm not going to get pregnant. You don't get pregnant when you take birth control. Like, come on. And yeah, and that was I was still with an abusive partner. I had to get a restraining order against him, and there's actually a lot of marks last time the police showed up. So we had a restraining order, and you couldn't see he lost his parental rights and everything. Yeah, so she was a healthy pregnancy. I ate like a horse. I couldn't stop eating. I was really emotional though, so it was kind of like, eek.
So you stopped the cycle at the end of your first daughter's pregnancy, and then went on to have a completely healthy, alcohol-free pregnancy with Samantha. Is that right?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations.
And that's what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to, not only for the Pcap program, but for so many other mothers, that there's other ways to cope and manage than needing to have your best friend by your side going through it all. I wanted to know that it is possible to have a drug and alcohol-free child, and that that child could share a relationship with a child that may be drug and alcohol affected.
So Darla, what do you think is important for other professionals to know about mums that are living with FASD?
To have the patience to maybe, when we say we're okay and everything's fine, and no, thank you for your help, and just to know that that's the complete opposite of what we're trying to say. Because I know for me personally, I don't understand anything. I don't know when I'm hungry unless I'm disorientated and dizzy and sick, right? And where people are like, wow, you look really tired. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to eat, right?
And that you'll get it eventually? Is that
That's right, yeah, that totally, yeah. Just have patience and listening, and know that that's all we need, so that we're not having to feel as though we're going to fail, right? Like, to know that I can succeed regardless, because I don't see FASD as a problem for me. It's only when other people recognize it that it's a problem. So just seeing me as a person that may get stressed out when things aren't really stressful for them, it's really stressful for me. And just to be listening to that and trying to find ways to change it into something that it's not.
Right. So what would you say to other moms? What would you want them to know?
That you're not alone, that no one will ever be ashamed of you.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, I want to just ask you a couple of more quick questions, if I could. What, Darla, was your best day in your lifetime? You've had a lot of pain and struggles, but what was your best day?
When it only took an hour and a half for a 7-pound, 4-ounce child to come out of me. And she crawled up me and nursed herself. And that was the happiest moment of my life.
And what was your proudest moment?
My proudest moment was getting this job. Seriously, because I felt as though I really have so much empathy and compassion and hope for people.
Yep.
That from the ages of 13 to 21, I really wish I had someone there to talk to me and tell me that I was okay, right? That there's nothing really too different about me. Like, I am just like everyone else. It's just the way I did things and the way I felt and the way I showed how I was feeling.
Yep.
You know, and that's what I really want. I mean, I always see the big picture and I want it now, right? And I think but I understand that I can sit at someone's level and not judge them at all, and listen to them and show them that there is ways to keep a home, keep healthy relationships, just keep what you see everyone else having out there. Like, I don't want youth to be afraid to be themselves. I wish for youth to know, even though you have FASD, there is still a way to function in everyday society. Because there's always people that judge, right? Like, there's always people, and all I do is take a deep breath, smile, and kill them with kindness, because that's the best thing to do.
So can I ask you, Darla, how long have you been in recovery now? How long have you been sober?
Next month it'll be 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit, Darla, with your new role at McMahon, you're a mentor, a professional mentor. Can you discuss that a little bit about what that job entails and what you look forward to doing in that role?
It's completely different than an advocate. It's basically from age 13 to 21. I will let youth know that there's someone by your side, right? And to help you with like basic hygienal issues and stuff, because I know how hard that is, especially with Fasd. And just trying to keep away from relationships that may not be so happy for you, and to know that even with budgeting or just like being a friend, sitting down by your side and finding ways to change the anger and the depression and the aloneness and make the energy a little bit more calming, and just even when you just want to scream so much and you just want to hurt somebody so bad, I want to be that person there saying it's okay to feel something, right?
So back then in your darkest days, Darla, because you've sure been through a lot in a very short lifetime so far, but what would have helped? What could we have done to help when you were struggling and pregnant and in all that mess? What would have helped?
Having a professional sit down with me and hopefully stay with me through life, and even if you had to pass me on to another professional, they would know my case, so that I would be able to walk with somebody in life to have an understanding of what I maybe have been vulnerable to and the choices that I may have went down and choices maybe that I could have possibly made, but like a professional that would have an understanding of what Fasd is, so that I wouldn't get the misdiagnosis of just a mental illness.
Right.
And so that possibly the 180 could have happened way before I was 24.
Yeah.
So
was there somebody or something, Darla, that made you believe in yourself? Because it sounds to me like you have an unbelievable inner strength from somewhere that got you to this place at such a young age. How did you get to believe in yourself?
Well, when you live by yourself almost your entire life, I think what made my spirit so complete is that the one thing that created my spirit with my body, and I think it's just a power greater than myself. Something that when I didn't die that day, really helped me to understand and know that that there's a possibility that I could help people,
Right.
that I could stop the cycle, or just kind of be like a little speck inside of it. Because I can just imagine how many youth are out there that seriously could possibly feel the way I felt when I was a youth, and where you could be and where you could go. And yet there's so many programs out there that are willing to change lives, and I think that's what it is. It's just one person coming to me and saying, I believe in you. I know you can do this.
Do you think that'll be your message to the people you work with?
I hope so. I really do. I really want this job. I really got to have this job. I need to know that this job was given to me because of the programs that I was in.
Right.
Like my references, the patients that they had for the interview, and the people in the Pcap program, and just those are my family. That's who they are today. My family is the people that transitioned me into and out of poverty, right?
So you've built yourself a pretty big support network within your community here, have you?
I feel it's really important, and it's a must. It's a necessary. And to be able to maintain this career, like I call it a career today, I don't call it a job. I call it a career. This is my career. This is what I want to do. And if I had the ability to go back to school and get my master's and my PhD, I really would. I really would. But I love being at the youth level. I do. I really do. And that's my foundation. If I didn't have a foundation, it would be so easy not to have my 2 daughters today and back right where I started.
Right.
Totally.
Well, Darla, was there something you'd like to add before we take some questions from the audience? Is there anything else you'd like people to know?
Thank you for listening, and thank you for this opportunity. And I'm more than willing to have the transition in life, right?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Darla, for telling us your story. It's just excellent. Can we take questions, I guess, or?
Actually, I have a question.
Here we go.
With your daughter, is she displaying any symptoms of?
No, she's like, if you were to see her, she's full of energy, the most optimistic child. Like she outsmarts me. Like she has a great sense of humor, and she's just, oh, she's amazing. I mean, there's some things like like she's 3.5, but she acts like a 2-year-old. You know what I mean? That's about it. Or like she still has sleeping problems and eating problems, and her attention is a little bit all over the place. But other than that, her memory and her intelligence is like way up there. She's an amazing child. Like she blows me away, and I think that's the greater power that gift to her when I turn myself over to it.
Can I add to that a little bit, Darla? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
That's an excellent question, Erin. And one of the things that Darla and I have talked about a couple of times already is that I think it's important for individuals to know that just because a child is exposed to alcohol, insult in utero, does not necessarily mean that there's going to be challenges. And certainly at 3, diagnosis is a little bit premature.
Yeah.
And we have talked about, if, preschool around grade 1 kind of thing, that a full medical evaluation would be able to determine, if anything, so that Darla's daughter, if in fact has any type of challenges, that we would be able to help support her so that Darla and her daughter and family would get the supports that Darla clearly didn't in her life course. So I think it's really important that we address that. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, when you were a younger teen, you mentioned you didn't get help and you didn't have mentors and things like that. Do you think you actually would have been ready and willing to accept the help at that time? It seems to me a lot of our kids, teens are pretty invincible, or they feel they're pretty invincible, and sometimes they don't really like to sort of take the help, the guidance that's offered.
I completely understand that. Like at grade 6, when I just tried my first attempt of suicide, I think that's really when I was crying out for help, but I didn't know how to, and I didn't know if there was a healthy way for approach, right? Because I think it's all in the way that you're approaching your youth, right? It's like not a, right in your face, like you must do this, it's better for you, and no. It's like, ask questions, right? It's all in a matter of questions. It's not like this is what's good for you, this is what you need, this is what, this is how it should be, and it's like, okay, have fun with that. It's like the approach, right? Just say you're meeting a new best friend, right? How'd you meet your new best friend? Right? Did your new best friend walk in with all these tons of questions, or did your new best friend walk in and say, right? I think that's what I would have taken. I would have taken anything at that time to put the booze down and have someone be there for me because you feel so alone with FASD, because it's as though everyone's against you. It feels like the whole world's against you. No one wants to be your friend or be there for you, right? So it's all in the approach. I feel no one really wouldn't want it. You know what I mean? And if they really wouldn't want it, then I think there's other resources out there that must be taken, because then there's other things going on, right? So it's just however you would meet your new best friend.
I think, too, to add to that, Darla said something really important in the interview, was that she didn't feel like she was good at anything. And I completely agree with Darla as far as it's in the approach to engage individuals with disabilities, but in certainly Darla's experience as well as my own in working with so many individuals of this very same experience, that they just didn't think they were good at anything. And to find at least one thing, everybody's good at something. And we get so focused on they're not good at math, or I'm not good at English, or I'm not good at that, and we forget that people that maybe are, you know, what we would refer to as, you know, big fish storytellers, as opposed to, you know, lying, well, they tell a good story. And there's a lot of good jobs, actually, if you're a used car salesman, that comes as a real handy career choice. But I think to believe in an individual, particularly in their teen years, and try to be creative about finding what they really love to do. Mm-hmm. And if it's video games, that's what they want to do 24/7, then let's rack our brains to figure out, you know what, let's see if there's another set of skill sets in this video game that we can, you know, maybe get them to teach somebody younger how to work a video game, but to give them that sense of self-esteem, I think is absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, without self-esteem, how do you really take care of yourself?
Right. And I would like to add too, Darla, because I sure appreciate, and I think everybody does, that how difficult this is to talk about. And in my experience, I've been so fortunate and so privileged to be able to talk to, you know, over 700 women that have almost identical stories. And the one common denominator I think folks really need to know is, out of that 763 women to date, all of them have been sexually abused, physically abused, and emotionally abused. All of them. So in our prevention, what we need to be talking about is not so much labels on vodka bottles, because by that time, you know, I mean, we're already in the throes of addictions, but it's the abuse of little girls like Darla that led to the addiction, that leads to the FASD, that leads to the cycle. And the miraculous thing about this young woman today is just the inner strength that this gal has. I mean, when you take a look at this bare bones history, and we're only hearing just snippets of your life, Darla, I think this is what really helps other individuals to understand when people are critical of moms that drink in pregnancy. Like you say, somebody's always going to be very rude, and our society in general wants somebody to blame. But this is who has children with FASD. And I think the sooner that we have Darla speak all over the United States, Canada, New Zealand, and Europe, the quicker that is going to happen. Because I think, Darla, you do such a good job in being so brave of actually talking about that absolute horror that you managed to live through and are going to carry on to help other people today. I think it's hugely important.
Thank you, Liz.
There's a couple questions actually that just came in. One is they'd like to know a little more about the Pcap program. I was in the Pcap program when I was pregnant to first meet my advocate, and she actually just stood by me. Whatever effort I did, she did back, right? Like, say if I did decide not to have my child, she would actually go out there and try and search for me and try and find me. and which I loved. It was kind of like you couldn't get away even if you tried, kind of thing. So there's always that glimpse of hope, is that no matter what, someone's looking for you. So it wasn't a bunch of paperwork. It was basically what I'm saying to you now on paper. So, and then they do a follow-up after the 3 years to kind of see how things have changed, and they stick with me. Like, just say if I lost my children, they would still be a support, right? And which is great. And they help me understand what I need to know in case my daughter does have any issues when it came to me drinking and using drugs. They would try and find the answers for me, or the supports that I needed to raise this child with those problems and issues. So.
And just so folks are aware, the P3 program originated in the United States and has come to Alberta and other provinces, so that they are thankfully plentiful in the regions as far as getting those types of supports for moms for that 3-year period.
Yeah. And you might have spoken to this already, but how did you find yourself part of that program? Like, did somebody refer you, or did you kind of seek out the Pcap program?
Actually, I was in my treatment center. I didn't know how to ask for help, but I just said to my counselor, I really don't want to give my baby away, and I need help to keep my baby. So she actually did what she could to find this, and she didn't know anything about it, and so she said, give this Pcap a phone call. It was all up to me, right? Like, it's all up to my work. So I gave Pcap a call, and they actually came at me when I was at Grandma's house. So, yeah, and it was just from there. And I knew just from that, someone wanting me to have the goals and dreams and desires that I wanted in that same person, and they could share their experiences. And yeah, I was just, it was actually my counselor at my treatment center.
So do you find it, this isn't a question, but it came into me, do you find it more valuable to have someone working with you in that Pcap program that has been through a similar experience? Would that be a more valuable, and also in terms of your role as a mentor, like going back to the time when you were 13 and being a teenager, what would you have responded better to? Somebody who has gone through what you went through, or somebody totally from a different place?
I can't really say there's anything too wrong with Pcap, because they saved my life, and I can only see them in a positive. Like, there was someone willing to help me, and they didn't even know me, and they wanted me to keep my child. Like, that's a gift in itself. And when I was 13, I was stealing and, lying and all that stuff, but I don't think I would really need an advocate for that, because I really was close with my teachers. So I think I would really need to know that there's a mentor at my teen age, so that I could know what a healthy relationship is, so that as I go on in my life, that I could maintain a healthy relationship, at least with one person, and then good people will come into that. I would see the difference between this person and that person, because I would be like, I'm going to go talk to my peer mentor about this and see what she says, right? As of say, like an advocate, if that's what you mean. Like, an advocate would be like, what would I need an advocate at age 13 for? You know what I mean? Unless there was extensive issues that have already happened before it's happened, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't say no.
Okay, another question is, what advice do you have for young people who are struggling with an alcoholic addiction?
Struggling with an alcohol addiction?
Yeah, how would you persuade them to drink responsibly, or just quit altogether? How would you?
I don't think it would be healthy to quit altogether. I think that's why I got suicidal, right? And all the anger and all the blaming and everything. I think it's just great to understand what social is versus the extreme. And I think we all know what extreme is. I don't think you can really utterly convince somebody to stop. I think it's all up to them. But it's a matter of giving them decision, right? Giving them choices. Would you rather come do this with me because of my own, like, I don't feel comfortable, safe, happy, love. Like, I don't feel all that when you drink around me or when we go drinking, right? Or would you rather go do this just for a little while and see how you like it? Have you ever experienced this sober? Like, when I'm experiencing everything sober, it's a completely different, amazing experience when you've never experienced it before, right? So I don't really think you can convince anybody of anything. It's really up to them, but it's a matter of choices and decisions and building that self-esteem and confidence and willingness to want to do other things besides going and drinking, because that best friend will be there, but will they really be there when everything's happened because of this one friend? So yeah, that's a good question though.
Another question is, how did you get through the dark cloud?
The dark cloud. See, awesome. I really didn't see anything as a dark cloud. I didn't. I was accustomed to it. I was grown to it. Ever since I woke up, like, I didn't tell you what my room was. It was a plywood room. And you would slide the door open and I would come out. And you'd go up the stairs and there was another piece of plywood there and there was my Nana and this bull mastiff dog, right? That's what I woke up to, my first memory, my first experience, right? Shortly after that, the dog died. So, like, I experienced death, like, you know, he's kind of off the couch, goes into the door, and then stiff and died. I was like, oh my word, right? So, like, I don't know. I wouldn't call my life or any experience a dark cloud. I honestly, I wouldn't. That's what my life was, right? It's not a dark cloud. I don't think it's a dark cloud. I would probably need a different saying for that to understand the question better. But how I got through maybe...
Your biggest struggle.
Oh, my biggest struggle? How did I get through my biggest struggle? I think, like I said, I just needed one person to wash away everything that I was told. Everything. It just took one person to just kind of give me a hug and tell me I could do it. Because when nobody tells you that ever, and when it takes one person to say, you can do it, why can't you do it? You know, you love this child. If you love your child that much, you can do it, right? And I just took that one person, and I was just like, all right, so I guess I'm doing this. Yeah, that's all it took for me. I mean, it's different for everybody else.
And it wouldn't have mattered who that person was, their
No.
background. You just needed
No
that
way. No
person
way.
there saying,
No,
you're good.
yeah, totally.
There's another question. Do you have any fears of your best friend coming back to visit?
My best
Are
friend?
you, yeah.
That's why I have a foundation in place. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there has been times. Like, I even, like, I think it was last summer, my extended mom bailed me out because I went to Golden to take care of some issues that I had from, like, 5 years ago. And then I ended up in Vancouver, having to maybe sleep outside with a bunch of people that were totally unhealthy. So what did I do? I called my extended mom, like, Grandma, and she totally didn't care. She was like, you get home to your kids, and that's all that matters right now. You know, I paid her back the help that she sent me, but it was the fact that I reached out for help. But it's a constant struggle every day. Like, I lost my best friend that I used for like 18 years, right? So I make sure that I have people in place, that I'm not lying, that I'm not trying to deny my children a happy, healthy, structured, consistent life of love, right? Because I believe that love is real today. I never had love, so I know it's real. But don't get me wrong, like, I still go dancing with my friends, and I have cranberry and club soda. You know, I still go to barbecues, and everyone's drinking, and, You know, like, I can still have fun and be around people that are drinking. Like, that's what they want to do, sure. Like, you know, steagettes and weddings and, like, all that stuff. Like, I'm around alcohol. Like, I am. Like, it's just, like, it's Stampede soon. Like, come on, everyone's going to be having a good time, right? And it's just something I choose not to do because I'm allergic to it. It's something that I gave up my friend 4 years ago. Yeah, I'm ready to make new friends. Yeah, so.
And that reason, like the underlying reason for it is been healed and is kind of gone, and you know.
I'm scared to death to ever drink again.
Like you have other coping mechanisms.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, I'm afraid. I mean, like I said, I have friends and family and everybody, you know, that's not my choice. I can be around it, but yeah. It's just my decision. That's what I choose to do.
Well, Liz and Darla, thank you so much for an absolutely amazing presentation on living with FASD as a person and as a parent, Darla. You've truly been inspiring, but that's not mine. The importance of sharing one's experience as a mom is very, very impactful, and it brings to light the critical importance of ensuring supports and services are in place to best meet individuals' needs and parents' needs. So I thank you for that. This has been just an inspirational session as Darla talked about her journey through her life and with this disability, and how she's created success for herself and with the support of others around her. Darla, we really do applaud you. And Liz, your support and your skill and your expertise is not just a great asset to Darla, but to all of us, and we really thank you for that. So, thank you. Now, just to wrap up, sorry, I've done the emotional bit. Evaluations will be emailed to participants within the next 2 business days, so please be sure to sign the attendance sheet at each location. Your feedback on this session is very important to us, as it helps us look at what other sessions are needed out there. The fall sessions will be posted on the website in the late summer. So thank you all for attending, and have a great evening. Thank you.